Hey, what's up, guys? Are you ready to take it to the next level? You need to join us today. We're going to be talking about stepping out of your comfort zone. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Kingsman Podcast. I am here today with my good friend Micah Hickman, and we're going to come to you live talking about moving out of your comfort zone. And man, that's not a comfortable thing to hear, but I promise you want to listen. So look, if you've listened to us in the past or you listen to us now and we help you in any way, we'd ask you to like and subscribe. Just lets us know people are listening. We want to make sure we get out this content to help you succeed as a man in your life, that's what this is all about. So I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. We're looking forward to the talk.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the comfort zone, right? So we was having a conversation the other night. So I'll just start off this way, Michael. Is comfort a bad thing? Loaded question.
Such a catch-22. I don't know. I mean, I guess here's why it's hard for me. Because as an athlete, as an athlete and somebody who wants or strives to want to be the top, comfort has a negative connotation.
Right.
It just does. Because comfort is synonymous was in my mind with complacency. If you're comfortable, you're complacent.
Right.
Because you're there. I'm there.
Yeah.
And what all the old coaches say, the moment you stop being a student, the game's got you beat.
Yeah.
And and you playing sports, especially competitively. I mean, you played at a much higher level. I mean, everybody, are you comfortable where you're at right now? Are you happy? You're happy with that bench? You're happy with that forward? So, again, great parents, we're never comfortable with okay. We always so then you correlate comfort with complacent.
Right.
But no, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
Not now.
Yeah.
But it's a loaded question because you think comfort, I want to be comfortable. I want my wife to be comfortable. I want my kids to be comfortable. I want to be, because I think in comfort, I don't know, there's a place of happiness that God has you. You're comfortable where you are in your skin.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that question, and it's like we all desire comfort.
Correct.
No matter who we are. I was driving over here, and I had, my wife had the car last, and it was set on like 73, and I'm like, no, and I go to 67, and because we all have a certain level of comfort, whether it's a temperature, we come in, like when we go to church, some people have to have a certain chair, a certain pew, they're going to sit in. I mean, whatever it is, we have a certain comfort level. They even say there's comfort foods. I don't know. Do you have a comfort food?
Food.
I'm not sure about it.
Yeah,
have you ever
I
heard
don't know.
that? I've heard comfort foods. I don't know.
I think that's Southern food. So all of our
exactly. If it's fried, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
But it's like we have built in us a desire to have comfort, right? I mean, who wants to be uncomfortable? But then there's the other side of that God kind of ordained some things that we would be in order for us, I think, to grow, we have to be uncomfortable.
That's right.
And so it's kind of like he said, I send you the Holy Spirit. Well, in the Greek, that word in the Greek is paraclete, and the word literally means comfort. It literally means comforter.
That's right.
That's who he is.
That's right.
And we need that comfort. But I think the answer to that, I don't think it's wrong for us as, like you said, as a man, I'm providing my family. I want them to have comfort. I want, we have that desire. It's okay that I want to have a temperature a certain place and, all of those things, but it's what we find our comfort in.
That's right.
And I think when it's anything in the world, if it's any comfort that we get from the world, then that's when we miss out and we stop growing, because we ask the idea, like, what is the whole point of it? Well, I mean, God said the whole point of us as a man is to be like him, to be conformed or transformed rather into the image of his son.
That's right.
And I think my personal belief is that comfort will always keep you at a certain place, and we can't no longer grow. So, I used to, you talking about sports as a coach, I would tell people the comfort zone is the failure zone. Because if you stay in the comfort zone, you're not going to get any better. Right?
So, yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
well, I think it was one thing. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it was after you and I had that conversation about, Jacob being so hard-headed and all this other thing. And
Right.
I think there's one, I think it's one of the things I had issues with. Nick Saban said this we are going to be where our feet are.
Right.
Be where your feet are.
Right.
Nowhere else. Come on. I mean, what? Okay, let's try to apply that to real life. What does that mean? I don't know. He's way more intelligent than I am. But what I feel like it means in my life is like, okay, one, I want to be, part of comfort is gratitude. I want to be thankful for what I have in the moment.
Yeah.
So there was a time when I was coaching, I was driven. Very much so. And the Lord blessed me with a gift that I enjoyed and I loved it. It was never work. Hours watching film. How do I get better? We never blame the kids. How do I improve so they improve? I want to know the answers for Friday night and how I want to be the standard that people are calling and saying, Coach, can we come visit your high school? What are y'all doing? And the Lord blessed me and I was given opportunities that I didn't earn. Mm-hmm. And eventually, pride got in the way.
Yeah. Okay.
And so what happened was, young associate in Louisiana, great, what's next? Yeah. All right, we got there. Check what's next. Woohoo. Well, I'm looking for better. I got to be better. Okay, we move. Next 2 years at Poplarville, my last 2 years coaching. Phenomenal head coach. Jake, great team. Very fortunate. We went to 2 state championships in a row. I know guys that have been coaching for years that have not even made it.
Right. That's tough to do.
I mean, I was very fortunate. Again, my mindset was not be where your feet are. It was, what's next? How do I be better? How can I be the youngest head coach in Mississippi?
Right.
And all the while, I would come home. It would consume me to the point where, but I can't stay comfortable, right? Because there's another young kid out there outdoing me.
Yeah.
And I was missing the opportunity I had to spend with my kids. Man, God, I don't know what's going to happen today, but it's a really pretty Saturday. And instead of doing, thank you for my wife, I'm going to spend time with her.
Right.
Being where your feet are is there's some gratitude. God, thank you. I don't know what's next.
Right.
Because like what you said, where's my comfort coming from now when the Lord kind of shook all the things loose and said, okay, what do you depend on? Well, if I depend on me, there's not much comfort.
Right.
Because somebody's smarter than me.
Right.
But if I depend, God, you're going to get me where I need to be.
Yeah.
That's all I know. That's all I need to know. Then there's a level of peace that where I can be, God, I don't know where I'm going to be. Is it where I want to be? No. But thank you that I get to do it with thank you for my wife. And I'm just going to enjoy today.
That's right.
That's how I have to combat it because I am very like.
Oh, yeah.
Still now, it is hard. I don't turn it off.
Yeah, very determined, driven. Got to keep going. Got to keep going. I'm finding my way through. I've been the same way.
Hard.
But I think we do struggle with the thought of. I think there's a difference between contentment and complacency. I think there's a small difference between contentment and comfort. Because
that's right.
Like, I think you're talking about being content, like wherever I am. Paul said, I would learn to be content, whether I had a lot or whether I had very little. And, he also said about contentment is great gain.
That's good.
But he didn't say contentment is great gain. He said godly contentment is great gain. So in other words, whatever my circumstance is, am I still content with what I have, with what God's given me? That's where I find my comfort. You just talk about having that peace. Well, we were just talking about, I didn't even know. I showed up here today, guys. I don't even know. They talking about a hurricane's about to hit us. I guess I got to watch the weather. But we think about that. I mean, a storm. Jesus said we're going to face great tribulation.
That's right.
There's no way out of that. We're going to have storms come in our life. So the question is not like, do we just remove the storm? It's how do we have peace in the middle of that storm? And that's that contentment that you're talking about. But I think in order to have that, we have to actually go through a storm. We have to go through things that are uncomfortable in ourselves.
Okay, so let's go this. Instead of stepping out of your comfort zone, okay, I think that's pretty good. I never even thought about the difference between, because it was always comfort versus complacency.
Right.
Always.
Right.
But content, not necessarily lazy.
Right.
But content, like what you were saying, like what Paul was saying. And then comfort, because I think we said last time, God never promised happiness.
Yeah, right.
He promises peace.
Yeah.
You know, God doesn't promise that you will be comfortable all the time.
No.
But if you look at all the Bible, you get on Gemini or whatever you want to search with Google or whatever, and let him, let AI tell you all the verses.
Right.
Look at the heart posture at which God is giving comfort or bringing comfort, or the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is referencing Himself as the Comforter.
Right.
It's all during problems.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I agree. How do I begin to be comfortable because I was uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Money problems.
Yeah.
Have you ever had money problems?
Yeah, I still do.
Well, I'm just saying, like, real life thing. Young Emily had a big girl job before I even graduated. She actually used to pay for my food. She fronted a lot of the bills early on,
Yeah.
Before I graduated. Then we both worked. We were debt free very early. We never had money issues. Buying a house, we were able to do great. Then kids, then car note. Things changed a little bit.
Yeah.
We had never had money problems.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. Okay. And so for us, there were some conversations at night that was not fun that continued for a week. And it doesn't prick the kindness of your soul sometimes.
Provokes other things.
Right. And so, but now we worked through, and it was hard. We made some hard decisions. She went back to work. Mm-hmm. And there were some bad things that went with that. Like, man, I'm failing again. Okay. Mm-hmm. But now, as we learned, because I remember, I'll never forget, I looked in the living room, or in our bedroom. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I know God didn't bring us through everything, make us what we are, just to drop us. Right. I don't know how He's going to do it or what we're going to do. I just know He's all I got.
Right.
I didn't really instill confidence in her because I'm supposed to be. You're supposed to know.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have the plan.
That man. Yeah.
It was so uncomfortable. I never felt like that before. Like where bro, this is real life.
Right.
For a period of 3 or 4 months, then all of a sudden, dude, God did some pretty cool things. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about down to the dollar type, her job situation type thing. It just, and now, like, there's just a different. I don't ever want to go through that again.
Right. No.
But that's real life. Like, I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like your relationship and even as individuals are stronger now than it was 10 years ago?
No doubt. So, no, I'll say this, through some of the things that, and I believe God provoked her to provoke me at something, some things, because she didn't even know. She couldn't know. I never said anything.
Wives are good at that.
I mean, her EQ, son. She's
the
good.
Voice of reason.
Right. I don't let her go. Side note, I don't let her go to the prophetic conference no more, because they come Wayne Drain. Every time he comes, he's like, "You need to listen to your wife. She's the voice of the Lord. Sounds like your wife." And so she started using that. She's like, "You remember what Wayne said?" I'm like, "Look, I'm but funny. Where we are now, and I joke, I was telling somebody this. They were like, "Well, how did y'all pray for each other?" I'm like, I grew up with Amy, and I'm sure you're expecting like a throwdown. Yeah. It was God, I don't know what you had in mind for our marriage, but I'm praying. I don't want to go back what it used to be.
Right.
Because it just wasn't fun.
Right.
I'm praying that I don't know how good it could be. Make it something that I can't even know how good it is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're there now, but I'm saying where we are now, I don't think I could have predicted how much fun I would be having and how good. Not just because it's through our issues communicating.
Right. Do you have to work through? Like
money.
Yeah.
We never had to talk about money before, and we did counseling. Yeah. We were comfortable with each other's ideology about money.
Yeah.
Until money problems showed up.
Yeah.
then we wasn't comfortable no more.
Right.
And there was a little bit of a storm on our marriage until we allowed God to show up.
There you go.
And say, I don't know, and I'm done trying to fix it.
Man. See, that what you just said is to me, I think, the crux of everything we talk about comfort. Because even when we hear messages about moving out of your comfort zone, we kind of get a little uncomfortable. If we talk about, okay, guys, I'm preaching today on pick up your cross and follow him, and you're already like, yeah, I know I need to pick up my cross. What's that look like? Because we kind of just have this idea, but just like you said, all of those things you didn't like going through it. You don't want to go through it again, but you're thankful for it because you realize the great things that benefited from it, bringing y'all closer together. And most of all, I think the whole point of it is bring us closer to God. You know, I told you this. The reason this even struck me is I read a thing the other day. I have no idea if this is a fact. No idea. It sounded very bizarre. And then I was like, that might actually be true. But they made a statement and said that men, once they hit 30 years old, 90% of men never sprint again. And I had to go back and listen to that again. He said 90% of men after 30 never sprint again. And I started really thinking about it. I started thinking about, I'm involved in sports, so the only reason I have sprinted past 30 is because I kind of had to. But I'm thinking of people who aren't in those jobs. I don't really feel like sprinting. I don't have to, so why am I going to sprint? So when you really think about that, you're like, man, that's not even, that's like a third of our life. 2/3 of it, I'm not sprinting anymore. It's like
never.
And the reason is we get to that age where it's like everything becomes about comfort. Like whatever's ease, like give me the ease. That's the whole reason I did all that stuff up until I was 20 years old. So now I can have ease, right?
Bingo.
And I don't
that's
know,
the
man.
American dream, though, right?
Well, it is. I think that's what's presented. And then, but it kind of goes against, as men, the way God created us. And this is the thing I was going to bring up, Micah, is that what is the goal of it, right? What's the goal of, if God says, okay, I'm bringing this discomfort, these storms, these trials, these tribulations, I'm allowing these in your life, then why do we have this discomfort? Why do we have adversity? And I think the whole point of it is to find our comfort in him. It's the only thing I could come up with because that's what makes us like him. He wants us to become, as a man, I believe his whole goal, and you could take the word man in the Hebrew. We talked about this the other day, how it's a word that's built. And it literally, if you build the word out of the Hebrew, it's a picture word. It's literally about a man, life and flesh, together with God. And he made us with blood and flesh to become like him. So how do we become like him? Well, we have to go through things, It's kind of like today we live in this world. I feel like we coddle people way too much. Like no adversity. Adversity's bad. Just stay away from it. And I deal with that with young men on a regular basis. I'm like, no, that's exactly what you need. We coddle them and say, well, no, you're awesome just the way you are. And I'm like, no, you're not. That's right. I mean, that sounds bad, but I haven't met anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at myself like, are you just the way you are? You're awesome? Like, no, like, really? I think God, that's what he said when he said, be fruitful and multiply was his first command to us. It literally means to become. Like, fruit is something that continues to multiply. It's the idea of we're becoming more and more like him. And if that's the goal, then the comfort keeps us away from that goal, and it's a bad thing. It's not awesome to be just like you are. God does want more for you. And I think that's that innate thing that's in us that sometimes you're like, no, it just gets confused sometimes when we want so much in the American dream that we're not content with God, because the whole point is to make us like him.
That's right. And in coaching Little League, I see that also. I don't like where you have me playing. Or I don't like how much you play me or how little you play me. Or I don't like that you're overly enthusiastic towards, whatever, because it makes people uncomfortable.
Right.
It makes people. Now, when you go back to like what you're saying, one, growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up is like when your kids hit growth spurts, their knees hurt, their shins hurt, their elbows hurt, growth plates, growing teeth as babies. Every part of our physical growth,
come on, man,
is uncomfortable. And I think,
can we grow without it?
No.
See, that's the.
I mean, think about this. Like, if we never got outside of our comfort zone, and I say we, myself included, it's hard. I don't know if it ever gets easy. The more you grow in God, I think the more He wants you to do abstract
just
things.
Keeps going.
I'll never forget that. I think part of the growth and part of the comfort is more for us. And if we could get out of the way of a feeling of uncomfort, we would get to also enjoy and be a part of either a miracle or a blessing that we never knew. Case in point, there's two things. One, when I was coaching in Poplarville, a fellow coach going in for his third pregnancy, his wife was, excuse me. Obviously, we don't even need to, we don't know what it's like or anything like that,
right.
But, there was an issue. With the something in the blood and you don't stop bleeding and the baby normally dies or the mom always dies. Craziest thing. All she had time to say was, God, my chest's heavy. Immediately, both the doctors didn't even hesitate. Boo, 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 boo. I mean, people going everywhere. The guy that I coached with told the story. And he was only a part of our staff for a month. He didn't know me. He didn't know. And, I'm in the coach's office. I'm the OC. We're, and then I just felt it on my heart. I'm like, man, look, I know you don't know me or know my relationship or know my relationship with the Lord, but I believe He can do something cool if we let Him. Yeah. And I'm just going to pray for you. And if you keep me up to date, I'll get, I'll pray. My mom has a special prayer group that, and we'll just lift your wife up. And because he was a wreck. I mean, they already had two great pregnancies. Yeah. And super awesome father, husband. I mean, and it was a terrible situation on both. And man, there was a miracle that happened throughout. I don't have time to go through the whole thing, but I'm talking about in mom's group. Yeah. With one of the ladies the day before. She's like, man, I just feel like I can't catch my breath. Then I shared with I got chills. Crazy. The wife's perfectly fine. The baby is perfectly fine. In fact, the doctor, when it happened, the doctor, several months later called her back and said, I want you to know, I went back the last 37 years of this hospital. There are 4 of these situations that happen, you're the only survivor.
Wow. Praise
all
God.
3. Man. I mean, and it's one of those things like where it was uncomfortable. I sat there for an hour.
Right.
I'm not lying. Like, I sat there for an hour just scrolling through Twitter, and I was like, dude, I should do this. I really should. I'm like, we don't want to bring personal into work, right? It's kind of, what if because I don't, come to find out, you want to know one of the coolest things? His dad was a deacon in the church. Oh, wow. They were he has a relation. And the reason I know he has a relation, he didn't say I'm religious. Yeah. He said, I have a relationship with the Lord that I walked out on a long time ago because my dad got a disease that 1 in a million people get. There's only like 100 confirmed cases in the history of the U.S. Right. And in about 6 months, I watched my idol, the man who I leaned on, deteriorate and die in pain. Yeah. And I was angry. Yeah. And he said, I want you to know this has helped me come back. I just want to say thank you, not for but it brought me back to where the Lord has there's just too many things. I was like, dude. And it's so, that's awesome, man. It's so cool. Yeah. But it was very uncomfortable.
Well, it's how the Lord gets us to move, man. He said in the Bible, he said to move the children of Israel. He's like an eagle. He was like a mom eagle who stirs up the nest, and that's when they make it uncomfortable. Otherwise, they just stay there, and then they not living they have these big wings and they never even use them, right? They can't soar. They can't get to those new heights, all that little. But that's what he was basically talking about. We don't move. I mean, I remember one of the most uncomfortable places I've ever been was we had this crazy thought to go and pitch a tent on Cat Island and stay the night and go fishing the next morning.
Let's go.
And, we got this makeshift tent. I'm with my friends. I'm like, okay, I got a perfectly nice bed at home. I got air conditioned, but let's just go ahead and stay the night out here just to make a night out of it.
Yeah.
Until about 30 million gnats that cover Harrison County, Mississippi, decided to visit us in the middle of the night. Okay. When I tell you, this is what uncomfortable feels like I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep for the whole night. But what it will get you to do is move. Because I got out of that tent. I was done with it. I got in the water neck high, just fishing like this.
Oh, my.
Because I didn't want any gnats touching me. And I think, God knows it's our inclination. We like comfort. So we'll settle. Like literally that's what it does. It causes us to settle where we don't move. And a lot of people don't know this. We brought this other night in our Kingsman life group. And by the way, man, if you're around anywhere in Picayune, Mississippi.
Wednesday night,
6:30, Kingsman life group, great place to be right here at Resurrection Life.
That's right.
But we was talking about, I ask this question all the time because I used to hear it in a false context, and it was this, how many of you ever heard, be sure your sin will find you out? Those were the things I would hear when I was going to go out late at night, and it was like, hey, do what you're supposed to do. Be sure your sin will find you out. And, you think about like, oh, I went out drinking, I went out doing this, be sure your sin will find you out. But that's not even the way it was used. In Deuteronomy 33, where Moses tells the people, because God told him to tell them, the tribes of Reuben and Gad, they were laying in the valley. And remember, God said, go take the promised land. But they were like, well, we're right here by the promised land, but look, our family's doing great here. We're comfortable. Let us just settle here. And he said, if you do not get up, that's what he said, from where you are and go armed before the Lord to war, be sure your sin will find you out. And so what it was basically saying is God had this land for them. But see, we don't like the unknown. We don't like the places with obstacles and big giants and what's going to happen, right? We like certainty. That's what makes us comfortable.
I like to know.
Yeah, we want to know.
I got to know.
And unfortunately, when it's with God, we walk by faith and we don't always just know. And I think that's where it's the line of God just saying, I want you to be, your comfort comes from me.
That's right.
It doesn't come from everything else. Right. In no circumstance or anything else. And so he'll get us to move and grow in that text, because in Deuteronomy 8, it's when he said, I sent you through the wilderness to prove you and to humble you. You recognize that you would need me. So when you did get the promised land, you knew where it was coming from.
See, and that's when, I was going to stay away from the H word, but
because it's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable. It is,
the
but
H word's humble, guys.
I think through humility, and this is what, the Lord's been working on me a little bit about it, is I struggle. Humility has not always been a strong suit.
Right.
And, working in some of the thing and allowing him is, if he can't humble me, I can never be comfortable with who he is and how great he is.
Right. Because it's about you.
And then I can't be comfortable in who you are, God, so I know I'm good.
Right.
I'm comfortable in who you are because you are. You are what? You are the light bill.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
You are my relationship healer. I don't know how.
Right.
I clearly, I got a degree in communicating, but I can't communicate with a human that's right next to me. It blows my mind. I'm sorry, that was free. But, if I still got this, if I still got it and I ain't humble, then I can't be comfortable with how much he's going to provide for me. And then, if we don't step out of that comfort zone of letting go of what we don't know, because look, that was hard for me. Preparation is the key to success.
Yeah.
I know what that's as coaches, I know what, football especially, I watched film religiously. I knew what they were going to do. Then I knew what their adjustments would be and how we're going to. You got to know that you know what you know. Mm-hmm. And the idea with God is, God, I really don't think I know how to raise kids.
There's some things you don't know.
And he ain't going to tell you.
Right.
And are you going to? But if we don't step out of our comfort zone, what legacy are we going to miss?
Right.
Like sometimes my family loves stories.
Yeah.
I grew up, I love stories. That's your legacy. Like what stories? Let me ask you this. David, if he didn't step out against Goliath, I'm sure that was uncomfortable as a boy, but he was comfortable in who, like what you said, where does it come from? Daniel in the lion's den. I bet he's willing to sit there and say,
little uncomfortable.
I don't know. Do I really have to pray today? That was the fight, not the lie. He knew what was going to happen. Do I trust that the Lord, am I comfortable that the Lord is going to provide and take care of me? And then in that provision, when something, you get a story. Dude, I've got stories where I went and prayed for one of my best friends and his wives. It's cool. It's like a mom and dad story where they were struggling with having kids and it was wrecking. And I felt like he was born and raised Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And, very hardcore Catholic, and so, and he had never seen that side of me. And dude, I'm telling you, I was sitting at the house. I was sitting at the house and I was crying. I was like, dude, Emily, I feel like the Lord told me to go. The Lord told me to go, and I think he told me to say this to Josh.
Yeah.
And bro, yeah. Because like we was, and Emily said, well, we got to go. I was like, hi, easy now.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they got 2 healthy kids now, and it's not what that's a God thing. Yeah. But what's cool is what it's done for me and Emily.
Yeah.
Is one, we got to do that together. And 2, it reminds me sometimes when I'm struggling, like, dude, God can do it. Like we serve a God that can do things like that.
Right. Jesus is enough, man. That's basically all it's about.
It's just interesting, but that was not a. In fact, I'll be honest. If it wasn't for Emily, I probably
she pushed you a little bit.
I probably would have found a way because it just inside it was like, bro, like he don't understand. I've never talked to him about kind of how we deal with prophecy or anything like. And I didn't say nothing about. I was like, dude, I just feel like the Lord said He wanted me to tell you this.
Well, like you said, it makes you uncomfortable, the unknown, the uncertain. See, we can't do that, so you're automatically uncomfortable. But it's putting our comfort in God and trusting Him that He is enough, that He's the one that we find our comfort in. I think that's the whole crux of when we're talking about our comfort. Because if we get comfortable, let's just say we're comfortable, everything's just like I want it, so we stay right here, I'll settle in, then there's not really going to be much of a need for God in our life.
Well, and let me ask you this. Or we'll just feel
like there's not.
No, you're right. You're right. Because, again, and that's one thing that I learned through, Dr. Dan absolutely mollywopped me a few times. He's like, because, boy, if you keep trying, how long are you going to because self's going to find a way to praise self.
Yeah.
Hey, he's like, it's just a matter of, but let me ask you, in today's world, financial.
Yeah.
Okay, finances. Crypto, dollars going down.
Yeah.
Okay. Some families are one income.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm just telling you now. Me personally, I'm looking and I don't know.
Yeah.
But am I comfortable in my relation? God's got to do something because I don't know the answer. Yeah. But how do you be uncomfortable or allow yourself to step out of the comfort zone now when you're trying to hold on because you don't know?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's happening right now.
Right. You don't know. But that's where it takes, I think that's just where it takes, hearing God's voice, man, and knowing, like, I know He's got me, and I'm content with whatever He says is for me because I know He's going to take. He will supply all my needs through Christ. Like I know I'm not just quoting the Bible. It's got to be more than just a religious thing. Like I really believe he's never seen the righteous forsaken or begging for bread. I believe that verse. I believe that if I'm like Elijah with my family by the brook, he can bring a raven to bring me bread because he's did it before. Like I have to believe that because there are things, we don't want to admit it, but there are things no matter how hard I work and how much, and God wants us to work. It's a principle. Right. But no matter how much I do, there's certain things we can't control. One of them is this world market that really dictates whether
our livelihood.
Our livelihood. It really does. And if we get into that place, the God didn't give the spirit of fear. I don't have to be afraid. Now, I do wonder, but that's where we have to walk by faith and not by sight. And that's where you find your comfort in rather than the circumstance. Big time. But it's like this hurricane, we talk about was coming in and Jesus came there in the middle of the hurricane. I mean, they were in the hurricane. I don't know if it was an actual hurricane, but it was a storm. Yeah. And instead of Euroclydon, which Paul went through, which is like a hurricane. So, I mean, what did they do? They started to doubt. And he said, why are you little faith? I was right here. I told you I had you. I'm up on the mountain. I see where you're going,
How dumb do you think? That's what sometimes like I ask, I don't want to be like that, like to where God's like, are you kidding me?
Well,
really?
I have bad news. We are like that.
I know. And I don't,
we're just like
how, but again, even through that, you go through that. All they were doing was just following Jesus. Yeah. Do you think Jesus knew there was going to be a hurricane or a really bad storm?
Yeah, I think he knew it was coming, but he told them they was going to go to the other side. It was a test of faith.
And that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. He didn't tell them doodly squat.
Yeah, he just said, "I'm going."
And then, but what's the cool thing during that is
he showed up.
So I think the hard part, like, what does it look like in a day-to-day of stepping in? I don't know what it looks like of stepping into an uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
I think I've shared a couple of stories like me personally where I know the Lord has said like, hey, maybe let's do this.
Yeah.
And I knew that was, but like on a daily thing, I find it uncomfortable trying to let the Lord hack away parts.
Oh yeah.
Of
our flesh don't like it.
Like on a daily basis saying, God, what does today look like?
Mm-hmm.
Or just how do I be better today?
Yeah.
I know in my mind what my mind thinks better is. Like I want to be better at my job.
Right.
I don't care. I want to be. I've started a rivalry with a different golf cart company. I can't help myself. It's a sickness. And I look and I measure. I want to be better. Why am I getting beat? And it's the same thing. So sometimes it's uncomfortable for me to say, I'm going to just walk normally and you steer the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, man, you bring up a great point. I think that's the whole, for me, I just feel like that's the whole idea, even as men, that we have to understand. It's like when we put our teams through discomfort, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have them whistle days, but there's a point to it, right? There's not just but the boys who believe that it's just punishment, the boys who believe, they just getting on to us for no reason, they don't allow the discomfort to do what it was intended to do in the first place.
That's right.
But the ones who know that, hey, us going through this is going to make me better. Mm-hmm. Me going through this is going to make us better as a team. They approach it a whole different way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what my message would be to all of the men who are listening to us today is that no matter what, we're going to have discomfort because God doesn't want us to stay the same. The whole idea of it is that we keep becoming. And what do we keep becoming? Not wealthier in world standards, not mightier and more powerful as for the world. Mm-hmm. He said, be not conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. That every day we face things and challenges in our life that are uncomfortable, even if it's disputes with our wife. I mean, there's things that are uncomfortable in your home right now that you don't even know if you can go another day with. But the whole point of that cross is to make you more like him. And that's very worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because think about it. What could be better than you becoming more like God himself? that is the whole goal that you were created for. It's the most fulfilling thing. Like you said, those moments where your flesh was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But in those moments is when you became more like God. God used you to do what he wanted to do. And there's nothing more rewarding than that. So I just, I want to encourage all you men who are listening today. We're going through real life examples, things we struggle with, even ideas. Well, God, why would you allow this? Why?
Yeah.
You want us to have peace. You want us to be settled in, but only to a certain point. Anything God ever made in life, you think about our muscles, they have to go through resistance. Mm-hmm. The old saying, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
In order to get where you want. Your immune system, if it never has any resistance or adversity, then it's not very good. It's not very strong.
Dude,
so
the physical echoes with the spiritual
exactly.
demands.
It's the way God created. And God created us out of the dust of the ground to become more like him. So every time you go through your discomfort and you just feel like you're carrying that cross, just know that cross is what leads to the resurrection. Yeah. There's no other way to get to it. And that's the way God ordained it, because then we rely on him, and our peace and our joy and our comfort really comes from him. So look, if we ever going to man up, if we're going to be the man God calls us to be, we have to be willing to step out of the comfort zone. God never called us just to stay right where we are, because that's a never-ending goal till one day we're just with him, and where the Bible says we'll be just like he is. We're going to continue to be more and more like him every day.
Well, and I think one of the things is it's okay to go against the grain, like what you were saying, dude. I tell kids all the time, it's not okay to quit.
That's right.
It's not okay to quit. And it's not, because if you make a lifestyle of quitting because it's tough.
Come on, man.
If I quit when it's tough, I will train myself early. Well, I tried. I'm going to make an excuse and quit. As men, and I told the football team this last Tuesday, one day your kids, your wife, in the hard times, they will rely on you when life is against you. And if you quit when you're tough, okay, well, what about now when it's not really mainstream media to be Christian and to have a value where I believe, not every time, but I believe there's certain times that I'm going to tell you what, my kids understand that, there's a certain thing you do.
Yeah.
I'm not asking what your truth is.
Right.
I don't, and that's not popular with some of our friends.
No, it's not popular at all.
And, that's one of the things is sometimes it's not popular in marriage.
Yeah. Right.
Like Emily and I, there was a point where, because I've only raised boys. I don't know nothing about raising girls.
You grew up with a bunch of boys.
And I know me. I know what my dad had to do.
Yeah.
And she didn't like it when I was very direct.
Yeah.
And just, it felt
assertive.
And it felt like I was on them. For me, it felt like I was on them about but I know that I want them to be confident.
Yeah.
I want them to know what they want and to go get it. But if I allow early them to finagle their way around and do and say certain things, it don't end well.
No, it doesn't.
And that's not.
It doesn't. It's not what God intended.
And so like right now, even it's not necessarily comfortable saying, I got peace. I had somebody today ask me, like, dude, why? What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you don't know? I have no idea. I just know I'm going to be all right. He was like, what? I'm like, dude, I told you. I was like, I've just come to a place where God's just going to do, I need him to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
And even saying that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's tough. It is.
Even saying that to somebody that doesn't have a relationship with Christ. I just told him, before I said it, I was like, yeah, dude, look, I don't know. We may invest here and get some, take something out. I was like, dude, God's just going to do, that's the whole purpose of being a Christian, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to somebody today, to close this out, I was just talking to somebody today, and they went through one of the toughest trials in their mind, in their life, because people who are real close to them come against them. It kind of forced them out of the community they were in or where they were at. And I haven't talked to them through the whole process. They actually reached out to me this morning by text, and it was so funny because we're going over this. And I text back and this is the response that God gave me. I said, man, sometimes when God really wants us, he's trying to take us to a new dimension in our life, a next level kind of thing in our life, then he has to present the uncomfortable. He's got to move us. And I said, it's kind of like what happened to you. It's kind of like a baby, a baby, there's a time for the womb. There's a time. Those 9 months, it's necessary to be comfortable. It's necessary to get the nurturing and all the stuff that you need. But God's intention was never for you to stay there. Yeah. And if you stay there, you die. You just stay the same. You can't grow. So what happens? Labor, pain, travail, the Bible says, right? Like the serious word. But, that's the only way that you can be ushered out into this whole new dimension where now you can grow to like unbelievable. I mean, think about how much more it can multiply from where it was inside the womb to what it becomes. I mean, we were all a baby at one time. And that is the picture, I think, sometimes like, hey, sometimes you're not willing to move. Sometimes God even move you out because you'll die where you are. And you didn't like it, but you don't realize God's doing that because guess what it's made you do more than anything? Rely on him. And the whole problem, he's brought you to a place where he humbled you and you rely on him, and now you can grow where God really wants you to grow.
And you don't realize, like, I mean, again, I think one of the things that being comfortable with understanding that God, life's going to suck, and sometimes you're going to let it suck.
Yeah, yeah, right. He does. He works all things together for good. I go
back to, I can tell you the postcard was blue on my mom's refrigerator. I can tell you it was the promise of peace I give to you, my peace.
Yeah.
Peace that cannot be, and it was like the promise of peace. And underneath it, she put the little verses of what God's, and even now, sometimes I draw back because you don't know, but I know that he's got a reason.
Yeah.
I ain't got to like it, and I don't like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But one of the things I keep going back to is if it's cool enough now because it's real personal now, like with me and my wife and what we're growing to.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen by me.
Right. Right.
If it's already better than I think I could have asked for it 10 years, what other cool things could be next?
Yeah. Right.
And
we wouldn't choose that.
No,
the way God did it. That's the thing. We would just stay where we are.
I was
we
happy.
Wouldn't choose that. Yeah.
But Abraham, he was old, retired, and happy. His dad was very well known.
Right. Go to an unknown place.
With nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So I think
that's good stuff, man. Real good stuff. So, guys, we want to challenge you today. I don't know whatever you're at, wherever you're going through or what you're going to go through. Just know that I think it's all about knowing that all the discomfort in your life, God says he works all things together for good to those that love the Lord. We quote that verse all the time, but we leave out the second part. It says, for who he foreknew, he predestinated to be conformed or transformed to the image of his son. So the whole idea is that all that stuff that God's allowed in your life, he's been working, is for you to go through. Because if you go through it, if you don't skip the process, if you go through it, then you would be conformed into Jesus, right? You'd be more like Jesus. And see, I think that's part of our problem too, Michael. We value more about having all the success of the world instead of being like Jesus. What's more successful? What do we value? I mean, there's nothing better than being like Jesus, right?
Yeah. No, that's it.
I mean, he's the ultimate man. He's the God man,
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's what I think about that. I think if I can let, because Dad says it all the time, how does he think, and not saying right or wrong, I know there's lots of theories, but I truly also believe when we get to judgment, there's going to be a couple of things that matter. And I really do believe I will be judged on what did you do with the gift I gave you, your wife?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure. What did you do with her? And so then I start looking at, how do I do that? Because we're polar opposites.
Yeah. Makes you more like Jesus. Become more patient.
Jesus, patience. But it's one of those things that, man, if I can get there, what reward would be is life with truly a best friend that, yes, there's a head and we have to be the head, but I'm not talking about dominant, like Rome emperor, but we get to co-do life to where I get to come with a best friend that knows me.
Yeah.
Like the Avatar, I see you, you know, Jake's, there's rewards for.
Yes.
But I didn't know that.
Right.
You don't know that at 10 years of marriage. I just know hey, wives submit, bro. You're not.
Well, we're trying to help everybody else know.
I'm sorry.
If they start a marriage, Michael, that's why we failed so you can succeed.
That's right. That's right.
We're sharing testimonies, man. Yeah. So we want to encourage you to know that all that stuff you go through, because God doesn't want you just to exist, right? He wants you to live. Yeah. And you can have all the money in the world, and you can have all you be is a record. You was born, you had this, and you died. But you could have a record of your life that says you lived. Now, think about Jabez in the Bible in 1 Chronicles, I think it's chapter 9. Actually, for 3 chapters, it says so-and-so begat. That's a fancy word for born. They had give birth, they died. They were born, they died. It's like a list of like this genealogy, right, of so many characters. But then all of a sudden, in like this middle of the chapter, it stops when it gets to Jabez. It's amazing to me. It stops, and it doesn't just give a record that he was born, he had this, and he died. It talks about Jabez, because Jabez didn't just exist, he lived. But it's very interesting because Jabez means born out of sorrow, right? An uncomfortable life. So sometimes when God wants to move us out of the comfort zone, it's just because he really wants you to live. And so just embrace it. I know the Marines, I think, says embrace the suck.
Yes, they do.
I think we just have shirts, Kingsman shirts, embrace the suck. We'll walk into church on Sunday. Embrace the suck, man. That's right. But
come to church.
There's a lot of truth. There's a lot of truth into that if we realize the reward. I think that's what we was basically getting at. Man, there is a reward. He's working all for good. So trust the Lord. He's using it to bring you closer to him. If we can help you in any way, make sure you keep joining and subscribing, like our podcast. We can help you in any way. Comment in the links below. We'll be glad to pray for you, help you out any way we can. If you got any other good ideas for a podcast, we'd also like to know that. And also, don't forget, if you live anywhere around here, 6:30 Wednesday nights in the West Wing, which is behind the cafe, we're going to have our Kingsman Life group. And it's a great time, so you don't want to miss it.
Maybe not this Wednesday night, TBT.
Right. There's a storm coming, so we're not sure. Yeah, you're right. But we look forward to meeting you. We look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a great week. Until we see you next time, God bless.